So I continued on, and eventually I came to the point that it was time for me to apply for a nursing program. I got mostly A's in my prereqs, despite everything I had been through. And I was so proud of myself that I kept going and didn't quit. Uh, there were things that are frustrating to me. They still are. My handwriting is so sloppy in comparison to how it used to be. If I have to handwrite something after about 2 minutes of handwriting, it looks almost illegible to me. But I do it. I prefer typing. But even that has changed. I used to be able to type like a regular person, you know. Now my hands do weird things, like my right hand crosses over to do things that my left hand's supposed to do. I only use the shift key on the left side. I never use the shift key on the right side. So in order to shift, I do weird things like hold shift down and then press another key with the same hand. Weird, I know. I am sometimes hard on myself, harder than I should be on myself, because it frustrates me. Because after brain incidents, you're not always the same person who you were before. It's not to say that you're totally a different person, but some things change. And I had to come to the conclusion that that's okay. It's not to say that sometimes I don't get frustrated because I'm trying to type something fast and I can't get it done fast, or I need to write something fast and I can't get it done fast. But it is what it is. And so, anyway. So I started my journey in my nursing program, which was lucky for me because I only applied to one school. I applied to one school that was Gloucester County College in New Jersey. I believe it's now Rowan at Gloucester County or something like that, but that's the school I chose. I applied there. Thankfully, I got accepted, and so my journey began. Boy, was it hard. I thought it was going to be hard, and it was harder than I expected. I couldn't keep up. I couldn't keep up with the note writing. There were so many notes. Our lectures were packed. I can't remember whether they were 2 or 4 hours, but they were packed with notes to the point that, let's say I took notes for the full lecture, and I had 9 pages of my sloppily written, handwritten notes. Thankfully, I met a friend, Michelle Dunn. I know 2 Michelle Dunn, so I'll say the Michelle Dunn from school. She knows who she is. I thank her all the time. She would share her notes with me afterward. So she would bring her laptop, she would type everything that the instructor was saying, and she would share her notes with me. My 9 pages of sloppily handwritten notes would be missing 90% of the notes that were given. Michelle would send me her typed notes, in which she included illustrations and colorful things, and she circled things, and they were awesome. I was so thankful for her, because had she not shared those with me, I would have failed every single exam, because my notes did not have everything that the instructor was providing us with, because I couldn't keep up. I couldn't write that fast. I didn't have a recorder because we weren't allowed to record. We could only type or write our notes. Boy, was I thankful for her. Oh, I was thankful for her because she helped me. She cared. But that wasn't enough for me. What saved my behind was that Saunders comprehensive book that I keep telling you guys about. No one pays me to promote that book. I wish they would, because I've been promoting it since I used it back in 2011 to 13. But I can tell you how helpful it was for me, because even though I had my notes and I had the notes that Michelle would provide me that were like 9 pages of typed notes, like I said, with illustrations and all the examples that the instructor gave us specifically in class, I couldn't piece it together. I couldn't make sense of what they wanted us to know from all of this information we were provided. right? Like, what am I supposed to know from this large paragraph that's telling me statistics of how many people have heart disease and, you know, all of the other things about heart disease and assessments and interventions, and I didn't know how to piece it together. Maybe it was because of my stroke history. Maybe it was because I was just new to this whole nursing thing. But the bottom line was that Saunders book saved me. It saved me so much that I stress to other students to use it, because it will save you. It will help you make sense of things that don't make sense to you. So, sorry, had a call coming in. So, anyway, I continued my journey. And I started off not doing well with my exams. I second-guessed myself with just about every question because I didn't trust my brain. I felt like my brain was telling me something that wasn't true because I felt like the answers were coming too easy. So, we had those good old Scantron fill in the circle tests. Fill in the answer, come back, reread it, change my answer. Fill in the answer, come back, reread it, change my answer. I kept failing my exams by somewhere in between 2 and 6 points every time. It was crushing me because I needed a certain grade, as you know we all do, to pass. I was doing fine in my classwork, but I was failing my exams. And so Dr. Blackman Hill, I love her. I don't know if you guys have ever had her. She advocated for me. She cared about my success. She pulled me to the side and asked me to explain to her how I studied, what my study habits look like. And so I told her. I stayed up all night studying. I told her about my medical history, you know, the fact that I had had a couple strokes and that I felt like I needed to fight harder to keep up with the rest of the class. And so I would stay up late at night studying. And I had all kind of different study resources, and I told her what they were, including the Saunders book. And she told me that if I was in fact studying the way that I said I was studying, that there was no way that I didn't know my information. There was no way that I didn't know the content. She told me that I was basically working against myself. I'm just trying to make sure I don't use words that are offensive to anyone. She told me I was working against myself because I was changing my answers. And so she showed me my exams, several of them, in which I initially had the answer right, but then I changed it because I second-guessed myself. She told me that if I came to her in another one of her exams in the lecture hall with an eraser or my pencil, that she was going to break it off. And I believed her. She told me the next exam to come in without an eraser or my pencil and do not change any of my answers, to trust myself. Do you know how hard the thought of that was for me? The thought of not having that safety net eraser to change my answers. But I had to do it because I know her. I knew that if I walked in her lecture hall to take an exam and I had an eraser or my pencil, she was going to break it off. And so I went in with no eraser or my pencil, and I trusted my gut, and I went through and I did my question and I moved on, and I did the next question and I moved on, and I got to the end, and I can't even tell you, like, the anxiety that was in me was so high. Came around, she took the test and went on her way. Now, we would go to a restaurant or somewhere, me and my classmates, and meet up after our exams because they would post the same day, the grades. They would post them the same day. So we would always go meet, and it was always the same thing. I would sit with Michelle and another couple of my classmates, And with anxiety, that was probably somewhere down the street. That's how high it was. And, everybody else is laughing and joking, waiting for exam grades to be posted. And I could not relax. And so, you hear one student yell out, "Grades are up." I was sure that I did worse on this exam than any others because there were so many things that I wanted to change. There were so many answers that I wanted to change. So I stepped to the side by myself to check my to check my grade, and I had an 84. To this point, I was getting like 70, 72, but I had an 84. She was right. I was harming myself by changing my answers every time. But it was because I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust my brain because I felt like my brain was damaged. And so that was where my journey changed, between trusting my gut and using that book to reinforce what I had already read in my big old books. I was on the right path, and I was succeeding.